tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's really sad that something would be happening on our doorstep right beside a kids' camp.
More on the drug superlab the RCMP says it has busted in BC. What impact will its shutdown have? Plus,
I think the question really comes down to is what lift plans were in place at the time, who's doing those lift plans.
WorkSafe BC alleges there is a systemic failure to manage safety at the Oak Ridge construction site. And
it provided kind of the foundation and the building blocks for people like me who have an idea but really don't know anything about entrepreneurship.
How a local group is boosting business creators and owners as some face some very personal struggles.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. A community in rural BC is in shock after the Mounties say they seized nearly $500 million worth of drugs and ingredients for making fentanyl. The RCMP says it is a record-breaking bust. And as Susanna Da Silva shows us, it's another sign criminals in this country are getting more sophisticated and ambitious.
The idea that this quiet, small town was home to Canada's largest drug lab has come as a surprise here.
Pretty low-key little village. There's not lots going on. It's quite quaint and relaxing, actually.
It's really sad that something would be happening on our doorstep right beside a kids' camp.
The major police bust happened in BC's interior, Falkland, home to just 900 people. Kevin Evans runs a Christian retreat next to it.
Lots of expansion, it seemed like cement trucks and loads of lumber, and you knew things were happening.
But he couldn't imagine what was happening.
I cannot understate the sophistication. Sophisticated by virtue of its size, by virtue of the type of equipment and the setup.
5,000 liters of liquid and 10 tons of powdered chemicals were seized, enough to make 95 million doses of fentanyl, with a value of close to $500 million, according to police.
To me, that's a sign of the fact that they've been allowed to practice and continue without much interference from law enforcement.
Experts say what was found also shows a high level of cooperation between criminal groups. Police say it appears the lab was using a drug formula new to Canada, but used in Mexico.
So we have this image that organized crime is mostly people killing each other and not cooperating. The reality of modern organized crime, particularly around illicit traffics, is that they cooperate constantly.
Experts also say it's hard to know what effect, if any, busts, even this large, have.
The void is so easily filled because there's such a significant demand for the product.
One person has been charged, and more charges are expected, along with a cleanup bill police believe could be over $500,000. Susanna Da Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
WorkSafe BC alleges there is a systemic failure to manage safety at the massive Oak Ridge construction site in Vancouver. The regulator recently carried out a search warrant as it looks into the development's prime contractor for crane failures. As John Hernandez reports, the warrant alleges there have been dozens of safety violations, including a death earlier this year.
There's 3 active WorkSafe BC investigations into what's happening here at Oak Ridge, and court documents show the job safety regulator thinks this construction site is out of control. The particular complaint dates back to July 30th when a crane tried to hoist a section of scaffolding. A base plate dropped from the load, falling 41 stories and crashing to the ground. No one was hurt, but investigators quickly found out there was no exclusion zone beneath the crane, meaning someone could easily have been hit, injured, or killed. WorkSafe BC executed a search warrant following that incident, and the documents reveal that investigators have mounting frustrations and safety concerns involving this job site, whose primary contractor is the construction company Ellis Dawn. WorkSafe BC alleges there is a systemic failure to manage workplace health and safety at the site. It claims it has an extensive history of infractions with 32 violations in total. It says Ellis Dawn has even indicated that the site is too large, unable to control, and they have site pressures. None of the allegations have been proven in court. The claims come amid a series of highly publicized crane failures at the site, including one that killed worker Yuridia Flores back in February. In a statement, an Ellis Dawn spokesperson said Ellis Dawn is committed to the highest level of safety, not only on this job site, but on all of our projects. We continue to cooperate fully with WorkSafe BC in all respects. Meanwhile, crane union reps say the incidents at Oak Ridge are a symptom of BC's poor crane supervision requirements, which often fall on the operator.
That's a very unfeasible model. It's very difficult for an operator to know exactly what's going on his hook when it could be on the other side of a building.
WorkSafe BC wouldn't comment on the active investigations, but the court documents show that investigators think prosecution of these incidents could be what restores safety to this construction site. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim's family home was vandalized on Thursday night with what he says are hateful and racial slurs, written both in Chinese and English. Sim says some of the text roughly translate to profanity against his family. He says he and his loved ones have already faced a bomb threat, a protest, and other unsettling moments this year. And although the scrutiny comes with the job he does, attacks on his family, he says, cross a line. Langley Mounties are asking for your help to find Jane Whitehouse. She's been missing since October 25th. They've released pictures of her Dodge Grand Caravan, last seen Friday on Hicks Lake Road, just north of Harrison Hot Springs.
4:11 p.m., Jane's vehicle was seen in that area. A few seconds later, a vehicle, which we believe to be a white Mercedes SUV, is heading in the opposite direction that passes Jane's vehicle. We're hoping to speak with that specific driver to learn if they saw anything out of the ordinary.
Police believe the person in this photo is Jane Whitehouse, driving in the direction of East Harrison Forest Service Road in Agassiz. That's where the Dodge Grand Caravan was found on Sunday. Jane's family is also asking the public for help as well.
Especially for people in the Agassiz, Rosedale, Popcombe, Chilliwack area, Harrison Hot Springs, of course. Just please search your property.
Mounties say they're still investigating this as a missing persons case. Anyone with information can contact police or Crime Stoppers. November 1st marks a grim anniversary for the friends and family of Shannon White. The 32-year-old woman went missing from Kamloops on her way to work 3 years ago. Police believe she was a victim of foul play. As Shelley Joyce tells us, 2 volunteers and their search dogs refuse to give up hope.
Mike Ritzie and Randy McLeod use specially trained dogs to look for people who've gone missing. People like Shannon White. White was on her way to work at a Kamloops car dealership on the morning of November 1st, 2021, when she disappeared. Mike and his yellow lab, Ranger, and Randy and his 4.5-year-old partner, Mara, have been searching ever since.
I have 3 daughters, and if something happened to them, in another province, I'd hope somebody would keep looking for them. It's just, she's an outdoor person. She was a dog lover. I'm a dog lover. I never met her, but I feel like there's a connection.
After 3 years, these searchers hang on to hope that White will be found, providing closure or clues for authorities and family members.
If there was anything out there, the dogs would pick it up, whether it was a clothing article or pieces of human bone. I'm quite sure the dogs would pick up on it.
They use high-level training methods to prepare their dogs for a potential discovery of clues or human remains.
In this test tube is one of these little plastic or rubber compound tubes that's designed to absorb odors. So whatever target odor we're working with the dogs, whether it's blood or tissue or narcotics or even explosives, and after about 48 hours it becomes impregnated with a scent, and then this tube can be used for up to 6 months. And it's incredible how effective it is as a training aid.
This area near Inks Lake outside of Kamloops has been a focus for searchers for the past 3 years. The dog teams return here often to practice their skills and sift through the terrain for clues.
For years, the scent is still there for dogs. I'm quite sure that he would pick it up, and I guess time will tell if he finds her. I know some dogs can pick human remains that have been there for, 20 years, 30 years, so I don't see why a ranger couldn't do it. It's a needle in a haystack, and we just keep looking, and we enjoy working the dogs. And we met Shannon's dad, and he's, so devastated, and if we could help him out, it'd be great.
Kamloops RCMP have no new information for the public, but ask if you have any information that would help in the investigation, that you contact the Kamloops RCMP. Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Kamloops.
The federal government says more than 500,000 Canadians have now received care under the Canadian Dental Care Plan, and more than 360,000 British Columbians have been approved for coverage. As of now, they're also expanding what it covers.
Certain procedures around dentures, crowns, more complicated surgical procedures, and procedures requiring sedation are now accessible through the Canada Dental Care Plan.
One dentist says they have many patients that are getting treatment after years without it.
So we have actually a list of patients who have been waiting for treatment that is of that nature. And so as of now, we're sending the pre-authorizations as of today so they can get the care done as soon as possible.
The government says the dental plan has been focused on seniors and children under 18, but people 18 to 64 will be brought in next year. Darius Madavi joins us with a look now at the weather, and we have a winter warning, even though we're still in fall.
Yes, that's right. Definitely a snow warning, a well-deserved snow warning in place for Highway 3 in the interior. Be aware that we could see a 15 to 25 centimeters of snow starting today through the day tomorrow. We have seen that snowfall rate pick up throughout the evening. We're going to see that pick up even more likely tomorrow. Be aware of that. We've also seen some snow up in the central interior as well. Going to continue to see that into tomorrow. If we zoom in on the south coast now, some more showers spreading across the region. Snow at those higher elevations because freezing levels have been coming down. And here in Metro Vancouver, not escaping the showers either. And we'll talk more about this later in the show, Dan, but also some drier days coming, especially late in the weekend.
That sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, it is one of the world's biggest festivals, and earlier in the day, students at a North Vancouver high school took part in Diwali celebrations.
It's the celebration of light and good versus evil, and
yeah, pretty much what she said, just good over evil, and that's why we have a setup over there with a bunch of candles, just to recognize like lightness over darkness.
Hundreds of students crowded the hallways to gather and eat together. Diwali is considered the most important holiday of the year in India and is celebrated across various faiths. In other festive news, lots of kids in all sorts of costumes went door to door on Thursday night collecting sweet treats as part of Halloween. Janella Hamilton caught up with some of the trick-or-treaters in Vancouver.
I love the free candy and how all the people in the neighborhood are all together and giving it out and having fun.
We get a lot of candy and spend time with family and friends.
And tell me a little bit about your costume.
I'm a serial killer with a C, so I kill cereals. And I'm a cobra.
It's just so nice to see the community come together and have the kids all have so much fun. So it's a fun night for us all to be out.
And I'm dressed up as a dead bride. I chose this costume because Halloween is my favorite holiday of all. It's even better than my birthday to me. I like it so much that I chose something spooky to match with the spooky theme around.
It looked like all lights were off. We thought, oh, it's just a regular house. I walked up, and me and him walked up. He went at the bottom of the stairs. I went up to the door, trick or treat. This thing, I just heard something go, and then I looked behind me. I heard this kid screaming, and then I turned my back, and I saw a tarantula climbing on my leg, and ah!
Some houses I've been to are really well decorated, and I absolutely love that. Lots of king-size chocolate bars. Last year I only got one, and this year I've already got 9.
This is our
13th year with our kids. It's amazing. These guys love it. We love it too. It's a great neighborhood, great atmosphere always.
And also we have a tip. So when your bag is full, put it in another bag so it looks like you just started, so you get more candy.
Running a business is hard work, anyone will tell you, and there are added pressures for people living with addiction and mental illness. After the break, how one group is bridging that gap. Stay with us.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond. Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
Finding a supportive work environment can be very hard for some people who live with addiction or mental illness. As Maurice Katz shows us, one group in the downtown east side is bridging that gap by supporting entrepreneurs who have creative ideas.
That's the bell that it's ready for us to. We're ready. We're the market time.
Sonia Brach sells ghee,
a type of clarified butter originating from India.
Yeah, and then I've come out with these new sort of seasonal flavors as well, so feel free to try those. I come from generations of ghee makers. I really felt like there was a deeper story that could be told through the ghee and through the making of ghee and the traditions.
Before Gheelicious, Sonia worked as an accounting clerk for 25 years. After being laid off, she entered what she called a deep, dark hole, experiencing depression and anxiety.
Almost feeling kind of hopeless, struggling for a little while, and in the back of my head there continued to be this sort of like, what about the ghee? What about the ghee?
That's when she came across a flyer for Employed to Empower, a Vancouver-based nonprofit.
Yeah, we just reached our 6-year anniversary, and we've grown from, one entrepreneur in year 1 all the way to over 400 people who have taken our program to date.
The organization is based in the downtown east side, where Wong has spent the last 17 years working within the community.
Like a lot of amazing charities support with short-term survival needs like clothing, food, and housing. And we at Employed Empower are the next step, and we empower people to thrive and beyond survival. And we do that using entrepreneurship as a way to build that confidence and purpose and pride in the long run.
100% of our members here live with low income and experience some sort of barrier to employment. So barriers can look like mental or physical health conditions. It can look like disability. It can also mean recovering from addictions.
They offer a 10-week business fundamentals course, which once completed gives you access to resources like mentors, microloans, networking events, and mental health counseling.
It provided kind of the foundation and the building blocks for people like me who have an idea but really don't know anything about entrepreneurship or opening up your own small business. Even more important and significant was that hope, that sparkle of hope that the organization and the course provided, as well as the confidence.
The organization defines success for its entrepreneurs individually.
So for instance, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are survivors of domestic violence, which for them, the reason for entrepreneurship is for financial independence. But for others, such as individuals recovering from addictions or living with a disability, their reason is to find something that's meaningful to them, that has pride and purpose.
Edmundo Cruz found the program shortly after quitting his job because of workplace bullying.
From there, I started really not applying for jobs anymore. Like I was so, depressed, and I encountered a lot of depression and anxiety. And I didn't really work for a while, for so long.
After being diagnosed with ADHD just over a year ago, he's working on starting a preschool for neurodivergent children.
I want to make a change in our society, like to recognize and to embrace differences in people, in terms of mental disabilities, not only the physical, but the invisible disabilities.
The idea is that entrepreneurship can be a flexible alternative for those that face barriers entering the traditional workforce.
It feels there's still hope, for people like us.
For Sonia, she feels more confident than ever before.
Well, if I can kind of make this happen, what about the other dreams I've had? Like dreams since I was like a little girl. Just feel like I have more purpose, I live with more purpose, and my life is just so much more fulfilled.
Maurice Katz, CBC News, Vancouver.
A look at the day that was up on the North Shore Mountains. It was looking a bit wet and snowy on Grouse there. Mystery Peak on Seymour also saw a fair amount of snow. And lastly, the Eagle chairlift up on Cypress. Your BC-wide weather forecast is next as we prepare to fall back. Stick around. As fall begins to really set in, we're actually starting to see some snow on the top of the local mountains and beyond. British Columbians no doubt will be getting exciting for the upcoming ski and snowboard season. Whistler Blackcomb saw 80 centimeters of fresh snow in 3 days this week. But after last year's low snow levels, disappointing season. How are riders and clubs preparing this time around? To answer that question, we're now joined by Graham Buxa from the Tyrol Ski and Mountain Club in Whistler. Graham, appreciate you being here. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
How's your club feeling about the season so far? It's early days.
You know, we took a quick poll actually to answer the question, and overwhelmingly, 3/4 of people are diehard skiers. and there's two categories. There's there's about half of those people, or more than half, they'll ski any day, no matter what, and the rest are just there to ski with the family. So if you go up to Whistler, you're going to find a place to ski. And most of what happened last year, we felt was sort of like it rained a lot, and then the news was showing what was happening at the bottom. But way up at the top of the mountain, there's still a lot of snow up there.
And as being someone who managed to get up at least once last year, right, there was, but later on in the season, it was pretty green and pretty hay-like at the bottom. Do you think people have been more hesitant to buy a pass or get into not just Whistler, but other mountains because of what happened last year?
I think, I had local passes and passes at Whistler last year, and I would also be a little bit hesitant. But, these things happen from year to year. Yeah. And I think last year being El Nino, it was a lot warmer than someone would normally expect. We had a lot of extra rain that wiped out the local mountains. And so, I always think, a few years ago, I got a pass became a member at the Tyrol Mountains and Ski Club, and that really changed my opinion on things. Just being able to go up to Whistler, stay up there overnight, have a place where I could go with my family, and then just go 5 minutes to Creekside. It really changed my perspective. I could go up anytime, and it really just made it it's
a little
nice,
easier.
A little easier.
Yeah.
There's always snow at Whistler.
Yeah.
That's it. From mid-station up, it's snow all year round.
Yeah.
And last year was a funny year because it actually had quite a lot of snow. It just felt like there was very little.
How do you think people ought to manage their expectations? Because there will be some people think, I got to wait and see before. I want to see like a good base, and maybe if they're not going to Whistler, they're going up to the local mountains and think they see a skiff now. They think, I want to see what happens next.
I always think about it because I love skiing, and so I manage my expectations by buying a second pair of skis. Really? Powder skis and carving skis, and then you're just always prepared for whatever. So I think it is proper to manage your expectations. If you're going up and you're a fair weather skier, you're going to have to play those odds because most of the mountains right now you pay a lot more if you're going and buying a lift ticket. So you have to make a bet at the start of the season. And so the best way is really just to invest in skiing. Go put all of your heart into it.
Graham Buxton, we appreciate your time and your expertise. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks a lot.
As we head into the final weekend of the U.S. election campaign, the rhetoric is heating up again. Republican candidate Donald Trump is being criticized for his recent comments about Liz Cheney, the former Republican lawmaker who is now one of his harshest critics. Steve Futterman has more.
4 days before the election, it's pretty much nonstop campaigning, and the candidates are focusing on those key battleground states. Today, both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were on the trail. But receiving a lot of attention today were these remarks made by Trump last night, where he seemed to be threatening former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
Opponents of Trump reacted harshly, saying he was threatening Cheney's life.
It was completely inappropriate, dangerous, and unbecoming of a leader. We need to get back to a place where leaders understand they have an important role. They are messaging to the whole country. And the threat of violence is completely out of bounds.
Later in the day, the Trump campaign tried to clarify and soften Trump's remarks, issuing a statement. In all the battleground states, campaign workers from both sides are trying to make sure their supporters vote. In this Philadelphia suburb, these Harris campaign workers were going door to door. Pennsylvania is possibly the key state, and the Harris campaign is preparing for an election eve rally in downtown Philadelphia. Workers were there today getting everything ready. It's hard to overestimate the importance of Pennsylvania. Of all the battleground states, Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes, 19. And both the Harris and Trump campaigns desperately want to win here. Both candidates will be here in Pennsylvania between now and Election Day. And behind me at the Philly Art Museum is the location where Kamala Harris is expected to hold her final rally of the campaign on Monday night. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Philadelphia.
With the election just days away, Georgia is also one of the most watched battleground states. Both candidates have made several appearances there during their campaigns. 4 years ago, Joe Biden became the first Democrat candidate to win the state since 1992. John Northcott takes a look at the situation now.
We know, in fact, that almost half the eligible electorate have already gone ahead and cast their votes in early voting. A big part of the population here, some 30% or more, self-identify as black, and that's an important demographic for whoever wins the presidency. Traditionally, Savannah itself has gone Democratic. Still, though, there are those in the black community who are looking for Trump, especially when it comes to his policies on economics. We talked to one woman who's working hard to bring out the black female vote about those supporters who are turning to Trump.
If I said I understood that, I would be lying. I really would be lying. But I really think that they believe that in the past he has helped their businesses, he has helped them to make more money. But for me, yes, do I want to make money with my business? Yes. But my family, I want somebody that's going to look out for my family as well.
Also talked to a woman here on the streets about who she supported, Kamala Harris. She said, however, she also said she worries whether or not Americans are ready for a female black president. Here's what she had to say.
I don't think that people are ready. I don't think the U.S. is ready for a woman president.
Today's the last day for early voting, and then it's the last bit of campaigning and the big day on Tuesday. Results could be final on the day of. They could take a lot longer. That is one of the many big question marks heading into this election. On the streets of Savannah, John Northcott, CBC News, Georgia.
So what would a Trump or Harris victory mean for U.S. relations with our country? Lindsay Duncombe drills into the policy difference between the two campaigns.
Just across the border, our neighbors are about to make a decision that will affect all of us.
The relationship between the United States and Canada is a very personal one.
I would not build a wall on the Canadian border. I love Canada.
Harris or Trump? Predictable challenges or chaos?
Canada has treated us very badly. Canada was taking advantage of us, as usual.
Your cash is on the line.
There'd be a lot of short-run disruptions because businesses would need to find new suppliers, new customers, and almost surely a recession.
I wanted to find out what Canada can expect if Kamala Harris is in charge or if Donald Trump gets reelected. So I reached out across the border to two people who analyze this stuff every day. Terry Givens is a political science professor. She recently joined the faculty at the University of British Columbia. And Eric Miller is a Washington, D.C. based consultant. He advised Canadian governments and corporations on trade. Here are three things to expect under each possible presidency. Starting with a return to Trump.
I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff.
The first big challenge, tariffs. Donald Trump has promised to impose at least a 10% tariff on all goods imported to the U.S.
There's been no sense that current free trade agreement partners will be exempted.
That means everything Canada exports to the U.S. would be more expensive, and Americans would buy less.
And with a huge adjustment cost. For Canada, whose prosperity depends on exporting, the introduction of significant new tariffs from the United States would cause a great deal of pain.
Economists at TD Bank crunched the numbers. Here's their baseline expectation for GDP in Canada over the next couple of years, growth around 2%. Now, watch it drop when you factor in Trump's proposed tariffs.
other countries will be encouraged to retaliate. So what it likely means is that many things that Canadians are buying from abroad, not only from the United States, will get a lot more expensive. So the cost of living and inflation challenges will be made much, much worse.
Challenge number 2 under Trump, migration.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history to get the criminals out.
Donald Trump is promising to deport 11 million undocumented people from the United States.
What kind of pressure would there be on the Canadian system if that deportation actually is implemented?
Oh, I think they'll be huge.
Givens says Canada could expect more people trying to come here, both legally and illegally.
There's going to be people who want to leave the U.S. and go to Canada. And if that influx increases dramatically, I think it's going to be important for Canada to start thinking proactively about ways to work with other countries. How are we going to manage this flow?
The third challenge under a second Trump presidency, defense spending. NATO countries are supposed to spend 2% of GDP on military and defense. Right now, Canada spends about 1.29%. There's a plan to get to 2% by 2032, but don't expect that timeline to satisfy Trump.
Canada is not seen as pulling its weight, and it will become really fundamental that Canada does come to be seen as pulling its weight if it is to build this kind of positive relationship with the Trump administration that it would like to see.
So what about Harris? If she wins, the change won't be anywhere near as dramatic, but there will still be challenges. Right off the bat, Canadians can expect trade disputes with the Harris administration. Get ready for a familiar fight over milk and cheese. The Americans want access to Canada's dairy market.
One can count on the fact that dairy will be a top demand for the United States toward Canada.
Also, a Harris administration would push back hard against Canada's digital services tax aimed at U.S. tech companies. The second challenge under Harris, that pressure on defense spending won't go away.
You know, I think that a Harris government is still going to say, hey, Canada, we want to see you get up to that 2% in NATO, but they'll be much more supportive of NATO.
Givens says a Harris administration will be concerned over Russia and China's influence in the Arctic and expect Canada to pay up.
This is just going to be a very hot issue for Canada going forward.
And if Harris wins, there could be an impact on Canadian politics. A Harris victory could send a message to federal Liberals about what can happen when you change leaders at the last minute.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think there are already a lot of emboldened Liberals who are speaking up, but I think a Harris win would show that it can be done.
We have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump.
As close as the race is, we may not know who wins the election for a while.
I think we don't have time to panic. I think we have to start laying out scenarios around what will happen and start looking at what are the carrots and what are the sticks that are needed to be deployed in order for Canada to be able to effectively navigate this period.
Both Miller and Givens say Canadians should be patient. Their advice? Plan for both possible presidents and wait.
Coming up next, after a CBC News investigation into its accessibility practices, Air Canada vowed to do better. We went back to see how it's holding up to those promises. You'll want to. Israel's offensives continued in Lebanon and Gaza today. Beirut's southern suburbs were hit again, with Israel issuing evacuation warnings for at least 10 neighborhoods. In Gaza, medics report more than 60 new deaths in airstrikes overnight and today. Officials say 10 were killed at a central Gaza school sheltering displaced people. In southern Gaza, Israel reported it killed another Hamas leader believed instrumental in the October 7th attacks. Hamas rejected the latest proposal from current ceasefire talks, demanding again that the ceasefire be permanent. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today says his priority was security, not agreements. After a CBC Marketplace investigation into Air Canada's accessibility practices, the airline vowed to do better and serving travelers with disabilities. Now, months later, Travis Danraj put that airline to the test to see if anything has changed.
Marketplace flew Air Canada from Toronto to Fredericton with Brock Richardson.
I have periventricular leukomalacia, which is basically a brain injury.
Richardson saw our investigation last year that highlighted a series of concerning stories about accessible air travel. Alessia Di Virgilio had a lift hit her on the head. Our hidden cameras also capturing this moment.
To say the word terrifying just doesn't fully capture how you feel.
Air Canada pledged to improve staff training, boarding procedures, and make necessary equipment available. But Marketplace found some promises weren't being kept. In Fredericton, no lift is available to assist in moving Richardson. And despite Air Canada's new policy, he didn't board the plane first.
There is some vulnerability that goes on when you're being transferred, and I didn't sign up for that to be amongst the public.
We were requested by authorities to board a number of other customers before.
Then there's this moment.
I'm not comfortable with that at all.
A staffer tells him his support person needs to get off the plane during a transfer.
If they're not like assisting or anything like this, then we have to ask them to deboard the aircraft.
After some back and forth, she's allowed to stay.
We'll need to clarify the policy. I don't have that information right now.
We also documented an Air Canada manager appearing to record a seat transfer without Richardson's consent.
It's not Air Canada policy to do that. What we do is we do take photos occasionally of mobility aids that are being stowed to ensure that there's no damage once that's being stowed in the cargo hold.
Air Canada now says they only took pictures of Richardson's empty wheelchair and tell him they regret his overall experience. They've also reached out to him for feedback and to offer a $1,000 coupon as a goodwill gesture. They've also sent a lift to the Fredericton International Airport. Travis Danraj, CBC News, Toronto.
Realtors often earn a hefty commission when helping someone buy a home. And as prices have soared, so have those fees. But as Nisha Patel explains, some homeowners are now getting a discount by using cash-back realtors.
It's an excellent home.
When Mayor Dad Kayeri bought his dream house in Toronto, he scored nearly $35,000 back.
I figured by using a cashback realtor, this would really help us with the mortgage.
His realtor earned 2.5% commission and returned a chunk of that to him, a perk for buyers who hunt for houses themselves online.
With so many tools nowadays, online tools like House Sigma and MLS, my wife and I did the bulk of the heavy lifting.
All realtors earn commission when they represent someone who buys a home. Cashback realtors give some of that money back to the buyer. The amount of the rebate depends on the percentage negotiated and the price of the house. But with average selling prices in cities like Toronto and Vancouver topping $1 million, it can add up to a lot of cash.
Commissions are very rich, and I think it's a good thing if these things are negotiated.
Here's the master bedroom.
Many traditional realtors insist their compensation is fair and argue that smaller fees could lead to worse service.
Well, it varies across markets.
This real estate expert says doing your due diligence is key.
Make sure you kick the tires. I want to check, see how many transactions they've taken care of in the past year. If they have a lot of experience, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
For cashback realtors, the model may be a way to attract clients at a time when home sales have slowed.
These two have
Alex Kvitnitsky gives up as much as 50% of his commission.
It's a nice bonus to have when you get a rebate that you can allocate towards whatever thing that you want to spend your money on.
He says these days home buyers are often far along in the process by the time they come to him.
Buyers are now very, very savvy. They want to be a part of the process, and so they do their own research. They look for their own properties.
As the industry changes, his fees are changing too. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Doris Madavi is here with our BC-wide weather forecast as we prepare to fall back. Remember that?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's already so
do
dark
parents
out.
and guardians and everybody else.
I
And
know.
pet owners. Pet parents, I guess.
Yeah, 2 a.m. on Sunday.
That's
I
right.
believe.
So
Yes.
do it before you go to bed on Saturday. Or if
Yeah,
you're still up.
or just sleep in.
There you go.
That works too.
Yeah, to heck with the alarm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, Sunday might be a day that you want to get up because our sleep-in day is probably going to be tomorrow. Some more showers coming across Metro Vancouver and much of the South Coast. Then Sunday is looking a lot drier. If you take a look here, again, maybe a few showers tomorrow. Today was definitely our wettest day, at least until early next week. But still some more showers on the way for tomorrow across much of the region, even popping up in the lower mainland at times, although the island definitely gets the brunt of it. Then as we get into Sunday, Metro Vancouver seems pretty dry. Maybe parts of the island see a few more showers, a few flurries at those higher elevations. But Monday, overnight Sunday into Monday, is when we really see that next hard wave of precipitation come in. Pretty major storm system, a very deep low rolling in. The Central Coast looks like they'll probably get the most precipitation from this system, but the west coast of the island could also be pretty hard hit, and parts of Metro Vancouver could also see a fair amount of rain. If we zoom out here as well, see that snow still coming to parts of the interior. That's why we have that that snowfall warning in effect for Highway 3 in the interior. And then you can see that bigger system roll in, spreading lots of snow to the interior as well, because freezing levels will be quite low, and in many places we will actually see that snow down at sea level. Now, if we take a look at our lows over the next few days, you're going to notice they're going to be falling in the south and rising in the north. Not too much on the coast, but mostly in the interior, we are seeing that trend. In terms of our highs, that's not really a super discernible pattern happening over the next few days. So some fluctuations, about 5 degrees or so in some spots, especially in the interior. But for the most part, nothing too notable, except you'll notice that as we head into next week, some parts of the South Coast may see temperatures back into the mid-teens, I'd say. Now, in terms of the forecast for tomorrow, some snow in many places, some rain happening on the coast. Places like Whistler, Golden, Cranbrook probably seeing a mix of both during those overnight hours, transitioning into showers as we head into the morning. And then, Dan, it's a pretty simple 5-day forecast we have here with some more showers on the way, but also some sunshine, and then our one stormy day to start next week.
Okay. Well, it's Friday. You know what that means. Fun Fact Friday. And Doris, you're here to give us a bit of a pop quiz on a Friday.
Yay!
About Canadian mammals. Fire away.
Yes, just for you, Dan. Well, this was actually inspired by a study that just came out from SFU. They were looking at what is the most Canadian animal genetically, like which animal has diverged the most from other animals. They found that it is, in fact, the spiny soft-shell turtle. But I'm not going to ask you about him because that's so easy, Dan.
No, naturally, yes.
And I'm not going to give you a quiz just about the spiny soft-shell turtle, as fun as that would be. Okay. But just some Canadian animals. So question 1, ready?
Yes.
What is Canada's national animal? Salmon, beaver, moose, orca?
If we are going based on coinage, it's the beaver. B.
Correct.
Very good.
Well done. And that is on paper since 1975. We're actually approaching the 50-year anniversary of that next year. Now, what is Canada's biggest land animal? Bighorn sheep, polar bear, moose. Wood bison.
Now, do we go by weight?
Weight. It doesn't matter either way. I checked both, actually.
Okay. Wood bison.
Well done. 2,000 pounds. Moose comes in second at 1,600 for the males.
Don't tell the moose.
Yeah. Well, they're doing fine. Moose is actually featured in many questions.
Okay.
Which species is also known as a reindeer? Caribou, elk, moose, white-tailed deer.
I believe it's caribou.
Dan, you're killing it. So deeply Canadian. And last question, what is the largest animal found in Canadian waters? Gray whale, blue whale, moose, or humpback whale?
In Canadian waters? Well, I'm going to go on a blue whale because it has been spotted in Canadian waters.
Well done. Actually commonly spotted over in the Atlantic and a few times even here in the Pacific.
That's right.
Well done, Dan. 4 out of 4.
Hinterland Who's Who, you're paying off. Still to come, this word was everywhere, I should say, from Billboard charts to the U.S. presidential campaign. Now it's in the Collins Dictionary Word of the Year. Oh, we'll tell you what it is after the break.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
On November 20th, celebrate the achievements and resilience of women in the workforce with guest host, CBC's Michelle Elliott, at the 12th Annual Dress for Success Luncheon. Tickets at successluncheon.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver Inbox and keep connected with us.
Collins Dictionary has announced its 2024 Word of the Year. Brat.
The dictionary defines brat as someone characterized by a confident, independent, and hedonistic attitude. Brat became a cultural phenomenon when British singer Charli XCX dropped her hit album of the same name over the summer.
It even landed with Democratic candidate Kamala Harris's presidential election campaign, after which Charli XCX gave her seal of approval, proclaiming on X, Kamala is brat. For the record, I believe you and I have Riz, no cap. Enjoy, children. Meanwhile, NASA's Mars Perseverance rover has captured images of what appears to be a cosmic Google Eye.
The rover captured the silhouette of the moon Phobos passing in front of the sun during a recent solar eclipse. And it does indeed resemble a googly eye staring down from space.
Moon's orbit is expected to one day send Phobos crashing to the surface of Mars or break up to form a ring. That's nice.
Clarified, the moon in the sentence being Phobos itself. Yes.
Now you know.
Very exciting. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. Watch this Brat newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, on YouTube, and our website.
And we'll have more news at 11 o'clock. Don't forget to set your clocks back on Saturday night. Good night.